Hello and welcome to the afternoon of day one of the Canadian Hydrogen Convention. I'm Chris McLeod with Edmonton Global, and I'm sitting here in the middle of the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub exhibit here at the conference. We've got about 3,000 people joining us from all over the world. They're here to learn about hydrogen and what's happening across our community and across this economy as we really build out the next kind of net zero or the clean energy future of this region, the province, and the world. First up this afternoon, we've got a conversation with Mark Plamondon. Mark is the Executive Director of Alberta's Industrial Heartland Association. If you don't know about the Industrial Heartland, this is where just amazing things are happening, especially in heavy industry. Some of the world's biggest energy companies have made multi-billion-dollar investments, and those investments are now growing as we move more and more into hydrogen and the net zero future. Mark, thanks so much for joining us.
Chris, fantastic to be here. Thank you. Looking forward to the conversation.
Okay, wonderful. So for those who maybe don't know about the Industrial Heartland, can you just tell us a bit about what you've got on the go?
Absolutely. Would love to talk about the Heartland. So Alberta's Industrial Heartland is a heavy industrial cluster that really is leading the energy transition and really leading the province and the country in terms of heavy industrial investment and activities. So this region, it sits in the Edmonton Metropolitan Region. It's in the northeast corner of the Edmonton Metropolitan Region, and it spans the City of Edmonton, City of Fort Saskatchewan, Strathcona County, Sturgeon County, and Lamont County. And those five jurisdictions have land in this area called Alberta's Industrial Heartland. It's 582 square kilometers of pre-zoned heavy industrial land. And since about the 1950s, actually, there's been investments in companies in this region that want to take advantage of the competitive advantages that are here to build value-add energy processing projects. So there's currently over $40 billion, around $45 billion of investment sitting in the ground.
Wow.
And the types of companies that operate here would be companies that are taking the low-cost feedstocks, natural gas and natural gas liquids feedstocks, and taking them through to value-add products. So there's investments in fractionation of natural gas into its various components, upgrading its various components to either ethylene or polyethylene or propylene and soon to be polypropylene. So taking the components of the natural gas and natural gas liquids and moving them through to value-add products. And then there's all the infrastructure, pipelines, utilities, water access, water infrastructure that's there. And all of this really leads to a strong value proposition that is attractive for new investments to come here. And so Alberta's Industrial Heartland is this cluster that is really leading the way in terms of investment in Alberta and growth going forward.
Yeah, that's really exciting. So I just want to zero in on a couple of things you said. 500 and how many?
582 square kilometers. So
Right.
It is a significant industrial cluster, and there's lots of opportunity for growth.
Yeah, and I the scale of what we can do here, I think for a lot of people would just be mind-boggling.
Yeah.
So when you think about 500 plus square kilometers,
Yeah.
this is a massive space. You've got a number of huge projects already there, but there's so much room for expansion.
Absolutely. In fact, so when we tour folks around the Industrial Heartland, one, they're impressed with how much available land there is for industrial development, but also it's flat land, right? So it's flat. The amount of additional earthworks that need to be done, it would be lower than in a jurisdiction where it's maybe not as flat as we have. So that's a real advantage. But that's on the surface. Actually, subsurface has significant advantages too. And one of the reasons that we're talking a lot about hydrogen and the advantages that we have with hydrogen in the Industrial Heartland and in the Edmonton Metropolitan Region is the carbon capture sequestration pore space capability that's here in Alberta. And that is now, I'm going to say, a new infrastructure. The last 5-6 years, the first carbon capture sequestration project in Alberta. But that infrastructure now is an additional competitive advantage that is now going to help companies lead the way in a low-carbon future.
Yeah, and I think that's such a great point to raise. When you look at the carbon sequestration ability that we have here, and we've had it for a long time. We've really been using it for a long time. A lot of other jurisdictions are trying to figure out how to do it. We've got 20 plus years of proven technology, proven sequestration, and I think it's something like the first or second largest ability to store carbon in the world.
Yeah, my understanding is it's the second largest capability pore space. The Cambian the salt layer that can hold the carbon dioxide. So the second largest in the world, but the amount is massive. I think the Alberta Geological Survey did a study of what that sandstone formation can hold, and it's in the order of 1,000 years of current emissions. Like,
Wow.
Whether that's the exact number or not,
It's big, no matter what the number is.
It's a lot of capability for storing carbon dioxide below the surface, and so that's the point here: is that there's not only a significant amount of natural resources in the area, like decades and centuries in some cases, and then again, centuries of pore space capability. There is a lot of capability from the natural resource standpoint and the pore space standpoint.
So, and again, here in the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub, it's really bringing together, the Industrial Heartland Association, Edmonton Global, a number of municipalities, Indigenous First Nations. We're more and more pulling industry into that as well. But the piece that we've really been highlighting is this, the ability to create low emissions or low, even net zero hydrogen at a super low cost. I think we're maybe number 2 in the world in terms of low cost, and then at a global scale. So, can you just talk about what's enabling those three things to really happen?
Yeah, that's a key point. I mean, at scale, countries have a lot of ambition around energy transition and being able to move energy systems as quickly as possible. In order to do that, you need to be at scale. And that's where the natural gas and making hydrogen from natural gas comes from. Like, that's where we can play with that, right? And so one of the key advantages in the industrial heartland is the access to low-cost natural gas, which is then used to make hydrogen when you're using steam methane reforming or autothermal reforming. The technology is using natural gas to hydrogen. And so having natural gas that is some of the lowest lowest cost natural gas in the world, certainly the lowest cost natural gas in North America, and some of the lowest cost in the world. So that positions you right off the top to make some of the lowest cost hydrogen. And then we add this carbon capture and sequestration capability that will now help store, in the order of 95 to 96% of the carbon dioxide emissions. So that helps create this low carbon hydrogen that is now some of the lowest cost hydrogen in the world at scale. Yeah. Doing this from electrolysis with water, I mean, that's another pathway to get to zero emission hydrogen. But to get to scale quickly and to try to get to a point where there's economies of scale for the consumer, utilizing low cost natural gas and carbon capture sequestration, we think, is really one of the key ways to get there.
Yeah, again, I think it's a really good point. What we need to do really to solve, the world's climate challenge is transition people as fast as they can. And one of the ways to do that is to make it affordable. And it's going to be a while until solar and wind and some of the other technologies will be able to really do it at cost and do it at the scale that the world needs, where you guys can do it now. Yeah,
it's all part of the mix, but certainly there's all these components as part of the mix. But where we think natural gas really plays a role is you can get to scale. The technologies are there already today. They're in service today. Hydrogen's been produced in the industrial heartland since the 1950s. The industrial base is there in the industrial heartland as consumers of hydrogen. Then as demand increases for transportation and other uses, we can really leverage off the production capability that's already there in the industrial heartland. So I think all of that economies of scale, which is already in the industrial heartland and we're positioned to grow in the industrial heartland, that all adds to the affordability. And face it, affordability is going to be a part of the conversation, and it needs to be. It needs to be.
Yeah, absolutely. We work really closely together. We focus a bit more on the demand side of hydrogen and some of the other investments around R&D and building out the finance side of emerging to a new economy. Your team really leads that production side and heavy industry. Can you talk about, again, you've got 40 plus billion already invested. What's coming next? I know you've got some big goals by 2030.
Yeah, so with our association, Alberta's Industrial Heartland Association, we are involved in marketing the region internationally to help companies figure out if their next capital investment makes sense. Yeah. And so as companies are looking to grow and they're looking around the world at jurisdictions, we want to help them understand our jurisdiction so they can make a decision as quickly as possible what's best for them. And so there's a number of companies that have announced projects and studies, some projects, but in a lot of cases they're announcing studies to look further at projects here, taking advantage of the low-cost natural gas, the carbon capture and sequestration capability here, and then all of the other, the access to fresh water, the skilled labor, the infrastructure that's here, land, all those things that we talked about. So there's a number of announcements already out, companies looking. So there are 2 world-class hydrogen through to ammonia production facilities where studies have been announced that they're looking at production of low carbon hydrogen through to low carbon ammonia for the export market. So those are 2, between those 2, those are multi-billion dollars type of investments. So that's really exciting. Again, those are studies, but we're hoping that those studies result in final investment decisions. We've had a company come out and look, we're going to be doing a study in the industrial heartland in the critical mineral space, looking at metallurgical refining to make a cobalt type product for the battery chain, which also helps with the decarbonization space. The largest announcement is Dow has announced that they are looking seriously in the industrial heartland for their first net zero ethylene production facility, which would be a significant investment for our region. Again, not yet a final investment decision, but Dow already is a key corporate citizen in the industrial heartland, and they are looking at doing their next thing, and they have announced publicly that they are looking seriously at the industrial heartland for the world's first net zero ethylene manufacturing facility. So you combine all these things, and you're a long ways towards our objective of an additional $30 billion in investments by 2030. And we've talked about that before. And we want to go from, at the time we set this goal, we were a $40 billion jurisdiction. We want to get to a $70 billion jurisdiction by 2030. And so we're hopeful.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think you're underselling the Dow deal a little bit. We did a tour with U3 Industrial Heartland. They're not just an investor in your space. They've got a massive investment, huge facility. So their existing presence is really quite incredible in the heartland. And I know just from what Dow has said publicly that single project, if it goes to a final investment decision and is built, it has the capability of decarbonizing as much as 30% of their global footprint, which is just mind-boggling. That was a gigantic company. For one project to do that is amazing.
And what's exciting for our region is, again, a company like that can put capital in many jurisdictions in the world. And they're choosing the industrial heartland and the Edmonton metropolitan region to look seriously at this investment, coupled with the current facility that's there already. It would create a massive ethylene production facility here, net zero, and a flagship. I think would be a flagship here in the industrial heartland that is really a fantastic marketing tool and sends a signal to the world that if you want to meet your economic objectives and your environmental objectives, you can do that here.
Yeah, it's really amazing. So I think everybody is really hoping that thing goes from study to done as quick as we can. Can you talk to maybe some of the other big investments, some of the other major players that are in the heartland, just to give people a sense of kind of who else is there?
Yeah, certainly. So, again, we have around $45 billion of investment in the region. Another exciting project that construction is finishing up and we'll be looking towards commissioning and startup is Inner Pipeline. It's around $5 billion, a complex that will take low-cost propane and value add that and upgrade that to polypropylene. And that's the first project of this type in the industrial heartland. So very exciting to see that coming online. So that's around $5 billion. So, but Inner Pipeline also has other facilities in the region. They partner with Pembina on fractionation. Pembina is another company that's operating in the region with significant fractionation assets in the region, and they also have other activities. Shell is a major company that operates in the region. Their Scotford facility, they've announced, will be one of 5 global chemical parks that Shell will be continuing to develop in their total portfolio globally. So, a significant corporate citizen for us in the industrial heartland. Another investment in the region, NWR, recently built and is now operating a low sulfur diesel refining complex, and that was in the order of $10 billion investment.
Wow.
So the investments that are in the heartland are significant, and these are just some examples. But Dow, Shell, NWR. Nutrien is another example of a company that is the largest fertilizer producer in the world. They're producing ammonia, ammonium sulfate, urea in the region. Again, these are significant complexes, compete internationally on the international stage, and we're thrilled that the competitive advantage is there for them to operate and be profitable in our region.
It's maybe I'm going to follow you and just veer a little bit away from just pure hydrogen to talk maybe a bit about food and ag and the things that connect. Like, one of the things that we're seeing a lot of interest in is kind of that petrochemical sector, and whether it's fertilizer or biodiesel or other kind of biofuels. Can you just talk a little bit about maybe whether it's investments or what you see happening and what you see kind of as the future of that whole intersection of ag and energy?
Yeah, great question. And we are seeing more interest in biofuels and biodiesel and waste to fuels and waste to diesel type projects and companies looking at these type of opportunities. And the underpinning competitive advantages that are in the region are what sort of position these types of next stage of investments, right? So, the rail access and the road infrastructure and the supply chain capability and maintenance skill set, and all of that comes with operating a facility here, all of that underpins these additional opportunities. And so, as the world is looking towards lower carbon opportunities, clean fuel standard regulations that are coming forward, that opens the door for these types of opportunities, whether it's sustainable aviation fuel or biodiesel or waste energy. All of these things become opportunities in the regulatory framework and the market framework where we're coming. We're heading into likely the market is moving where, the premium or just to get into the game of selling these types of products, you need to be low carbon. And so I think we're positioned well in the industrial heartland and in the Edmonton metropolitan region.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Yeah. Again, we only have a couple more minutes, so I'll ask you maybe just a couple questions. One of the things I think that's also, maybe it's just that, we love what we're doing here as a region, so maybe we think it's unique, maybe it isn't. But, when we talk to people from around the world about what's happening around talent, we've got more engineers per capita than any other place in Canada here in Alberta. The Edmonton in particular, the Edmonton region, is among the youngest of any jurisdiction in the country. We've got this young, educated workforce with tons of experience getting things done, getting things built. You look at the areas around Nisku, Leduc County, Atchison, which are all part of the region. It's the second largest fabrication, basically area in North America. I think there's one spot in around Texas that might have a little bit more. Like, this magic mix of all this stuff really feeds into it.
And that's all part of the value proposition. But what's great, as you're just describing, is it's all in proximity, right?
Yeah.
It's all in proximity. So if we look at from the industrial heartland standpoint, to have all of this great supporting capability, workforce, fabrication capability, supply chain, all of that within driving distance on a daily basis, whether it's about a half hour or 45 minutes, wherever you're living in the Edmonton metropolitan region or less, you can work in the industrial heartland and sleep in your bed every night. And that actually is an advantage. You're not dealing with a camp atmosphere or needed to build and manage a camp, and companies will understand the extra effort that is needed to build a large-scale value-add energy facility. You need to manage almost a small city in terms of a camp. You don't need to do that here. And that also is important for your workforce, work-life balance, building sustainable communities, all of those things. The proximity we have here in the Edmonton metropolitan region between this heavy industrial cluster and then all the supporting infrastructure and inputs to all these processes right here in the Edmonton metropolitan region, I think it's a great story.
Yeah, I totally agree. Again, the ability to send your kids off to school, mom and dad go to work, really good paying jobs.
Absolutely.
Get home, take your kids to hockey or soccer, and actually live a life and be able to afford to do it, both in terms of the income, and it's one of the most affordable places in the country to live.
Absolutely, it's really exciting to talk about, but that's all enabled by the competitive advantages here. Because if the competitive advantages weren't here, you don't have the economic opportunity for these projects to happen. But because we do, that just drives all this stuff. And the value proposition is here. I'm very, very optimistic about the future.
Yeah, love it. Again, low cost, low carbon, global scale,
You bet.
totally safe and secure, and a great place to live.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Mark, thanks so much for joining us again. It's Mark Plamondon. He's the Executive Director of Alberta's Industrial Heartland Association, a key partner in the Edmonton region, and especially in the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub. So again, thanks so much for joining us, everyone. We're going to take a quick break to show a video of AIHA and what they're doing in hydrogen, and we'll be right back.
The world is moving toward a low-carbon future. Hydrogen production, hydrogen applications, and hydrogen strategies are all finding their place in history. As countries and companies target hydrogen as a game-changing element. As a resource, hydrogen supports emissions reduction and offers an opportunity to decarbonize sectors that are difficult to electrify. Transportation, residential and commercial heating and power, industrial energy, energy storage, and power generation all offer opportunities for hydrogen. And its potential to accelerate Canada's energy evolution is real, and it's growing. We're in the midst of a hydrogen decade, and it's time to start building. So where do we begin? Here, in Alberta's industrial heartland. We are among the world's lowest cost producers of low-carbon hydrogen. Our region offers advantages that outpace any other region in Canada. Carbon capture and storage infrastructure, and the world's largest CO2 pipeline. In Alberta's industrial heartland, it starts with hydrogen, but it doesn't stop there. Advanced infrastructure, groundbreaking innovation, best-in-class resource development, and an educated workforce are just a few of the advantages that position Alberta's industrial heartland as a leader in Canada's hydrogen future. Our region has led Canada's natural resource development for over 6 decades, and we lead the country in hydrocarbon processing. The enthusiasm for hydrogen may be new to the world, but it's not new to our region. Alberta's industrial heartland. It's time to start building Canada's hydrogen future.
Hi, I'm Sean with ATCO. Today we're going to be doing tests on various appliances using a hydrogen-methane blend.
The name of the project is the Fort Saskatchewan Hydrogen Blending Project, and what we're doing is working with the community and Emissions Reduction Alberta to determine how far we can go with hydrogen blending. What are the regulatory implications for our organization and our customers?
ATCO's definitely committed to promoting a more environmentally sustainable future by providing low-cost, reliable, and cleaner energy options to our customers here in Alberta and also across the globe.
In Fort Saskatchewan, we're going to go up to a 5% hydrogen blend in that system. The purpose of blending hydrogen into the natural gas stream is to slowly decarbonize or lower the emissions from that gas stream.
This is a flame burning with 100% natural gas. It's what you'd see in your home every day.
That's what you're used to seeing in all your appliances. It's a dark blue flame.
Now that we've seen what natural gas looks like, we're going to switch to a 5% hydrogen mix.
You will not notice a difference in the flame color or the noise or any other impact to your appliances.
This is a 20% hydrogen blend.
At 20%, you do start to see a lighter flame color, and the tips of those flames, sometimes they're a little more yellow or a little more pink. It's intermittent and a little bit more flame noise, just slightly, where you hear the gas a little more as it's being burned in your furnace or in your hot water tank or your stove.
Safety is definitely the #1 priority for ATCO, so our experts will be conducting numerous inspections and testing of the infrastructure as well as the natural gas appliances of our consumers.
Really what we're hoping to do by starting at a 5% blend is work with customers to educate them on the safety and on the benefits of hydrogen, both the lower emissions as well as the fact that it's just as safe as natural gas.
Welcome back. I'm Chris McLeod with Edmonton Global. We're here at the Canadian Hydrogen Convention inside the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub. We've got a whole series of live streams we're running today and tomorrow as part of North America's largest hydrogen conference. And it's great to be here in person with so many people. I'm joined next by Jeff Cochran, who's the Managing Director of AmClad Coating Technologies. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
There we go. Just keep that mic right there.
Yes, you bet.
That way everybody can hear. Okay, so tell me a little bit about AmClad. So you're a technology coating company.
Yes.
What are you coating and what's the technology?
Well, we developed a new process, patented process for coating, pipeline, interior of pipes mostly. With the hydrogen situations we're having here, hydrogen is very permeable to steel. It goes through steel very quickly.
Yeah, it's so small.
Yeah, the atoms are very, very small. So what we do, we coat the pipe with our coating, and which is totally impermeable to hydrogen.
Yeah. So what kind of a coating is it?
It's an inorganic coating. It's like a ceramic coating. We apply it with heat. It can be done anywhere. We can be portable. We can be mobile. We can do it anywhere. So we can license our technology out worldwide if need be.
Oh wow.
So, but basically, we're based in Sherwood Park right now.
So, and just for people who may not know, Sherwood Park is one of the communities inside the Edmonton metropolitan region. So just as a question then, is this something that if there's an existing pipe you can put it into, or is this only new pipe that you're building?
No, we're really pushing hard to do abandoned pipelines that are sitting there, and so existing pipelines is something we really are pushing forward on. We can extend that. That basically gives you double protection in the ground. So yeah, that's one of the big things we're going for right now is existing pipelines.
Wow, that's really fascinating. When we've been in conversations with whether they're energy companies or pipeline companies around the world, and I spent some time in the AUE back in November at ADIPEC and talking to a number of the world's largest energy companies. One of the things that they talked about, and I think most people don't know, is that a standard pipeline, you can't just push hydrogen through it. Again, as you said, it can be corrosive, it's very small. So a lot of people have been thinking that they have to replace all the pipelines to be able to get hydrogen or ammonia or things to market, but that's not necessarily the case.
That's not necessarily the case at all. I mean, we can run a pipeline probably for 20% of the cost of a new pipeline. Once it's installed, it gets easy to monitor. When we pull steel pipe, then we have a lot of experience in Alberta. The people know how to pull pipe through pipe. Yep. We're blessed to be in this province to be able to have all these people that can help us when we need it. But going through that pipeline, yes, absolutely, we need to get that coated.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that's a real game changer that most people don't know about or aren't really aware of. So how long have you been around as a company?
This is the third year right now. We've been testing and coating for over 15 years.
Oh, wow.
So it's been a long haul. So we just grouped up the amazing amount of people here in Edmonton that are highly connected in the pipe and business. And we surrounded ourselves by smarter people than I am. So that's kind of where we ended up here with engineers, consultants. We really put a great team together out of Edmonton here. I'm blessed to be in this city.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So, when you talk about, the companies and the people, and you've had the technology for 15 years, but really the company for 3, how did you move from, that innovation work to actually being a company? Were there others that kind of helped you move through that transition?
Well, you get to a point you're saying, how do we move forward from here?
Yeah.
And then we get introduced to Alberta Innovates, who have been over the moon. They've helped us so much. Moved us to the level 1, level 2, level 3. And with their support, it's pushed us to the next level. You got companies like CFR who do all the testing to help us push to the next level. You get NRC IRAP that have helped us. ATCO, we've been underground with ATCO. We just finished a salt cavern test with them.
Oh, wow.
So we're really happy with ATCO as well. So there's so many people that have helped put us to the next level.
Yeah, that's really amazing. So, through Alberta Innovates, it's probably also the Edmonton Region Innovation Network then that you've been part of. Can you talk just a little bit about the kind of that support ecosystem?
The ecosystem, but basically where we are, there's so many pipelines that are in the ground right now. Are not being utilized.
Yeah.
They're sitting there doing nothing. Now we want to be able to take this technology and share this technology. We've worked with the Canadian Embassy here in Edmonton, another Edmonton push for them. With their German contacts in Germany, we've met with them already. They have big issues of how to move pipe through other pipelines as well. So, kudos to the Canadian Embassy here in Edmonton as well.
Okay, wonderful. And I mean, we're mostly talking about hydrogen and how to move hydrogen through pipelines, whether that's moving to the fueling station down the street or from here to a place like Japan or Korea. But there's a need to move more than just hydrogen. So can you do ammonia? Can you do CO2?
Yes, CO2 is the next. It's part of hydrogen. If you have hydrogen, you have CO2. You have to move that. It has to be sequestered. It has to be put in salt caverns or depleted fields. So that's the CO2. Our pipe is so smooth on the inside that we can increase flow rates immensely, maybe up to 18%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that makes a big difference.
Yeah, does it ever. So if the goal then is to move more hydrogen, to move more CO2, to do it safely, you could certainly do all of that. Are you doing it from, and again, in our region, almost all of the pipelines that go across North America start here.
Yes.
Because of how much oil and gas is produced. But we sometimes forget about, again, the fueling stations, the pipes that are going into people's homes. Right now that's primarily natural gas, but there's a number of blending projects. Really ATCO's project is the biggest.
Yes.
It's blending 5% hydrogen into existing natural gas right now. They're looking, in some places are doing it up as much as 20. Can you move to that small of a scale of pipe as well, or are we looking really at just the big ones?
No, small pipe, like 4-inch, that's kind of where we'd like to start, and up to, 24, 36 if we have to. The big stuff, it's later on down the road, of course, but for now, we're just staying that mid-range where it's comfortable for us and comfortable for the customer as well.
Okay. So in terms of what's next for you as a company, are you looking for investment? Are you just focused on growth? What are you working on right now, and what's next?
We've kind of been just running on our own right now. You get to a certain point in your company where you have to go the next level, of course. Yep. So investment might be a way for us to go. A partnership might be the way for us to go. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
But for the time being, we're with Innovates, Alberta Innovates again. They've been really helping us, so we don't really have to go that route yet. We've been self-funded so far, so.
Oh wow, bootstrapping it. That's great.
Yeah. Yes. So, but Alberta Innovates, they're the ones that helped us get started.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay, wonderful. Is there anything else that you'd like to cover to make sure that we talk about?
Just basically, if we were to move forward, we'd like to start actually license our technology. We want to share it. We don't want to just keep it in-house. So if we have the plant and somebody in BC that wants to take the rights, somebody in Saskatchewan, Germany, Holland, we'd really like to share their technology with them.
Wonderful. And if people want to know more, about Amclad, how do they get a hold of you?
You can reach us at Amclad Coating Technologies. We're in Sherwood Park. We're in the book, and if you get a hold of us, we're online. So yeah, get a hold of us anytime.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thanks so much, Jeff. And again, this is just one example of the amazing, really startup and scale-up companies that exist across the Edmonton metropolitan region. In hydrogen, in industries related to hydrogen and pipeline and fueling. There's so much happening here. And again, just as Jeff said, that big shout out to Alberta Innovates and the whole Edmonton Region Innovation Network. There is a ton happening here. If you've got a global startup and you're interested in moving into this space and being involved in the energy that's happening here, please reach out to Edmonton Global. There's a ton of programs to get you, to get your people, and to help you get set up and really flourish here. So we'd love to see you. We're going to jump now to one more little video, and then we'll be back in a few minutes. So stay tuned.
Transitioning from historical oil and gas to the evolution of energy through hydrogen can be done by leveraging the existing skill set as well as the infrastructure that's here. There is a realization in the Edmonton area specifically that we have all of the important elements that it takes. It has to start here, it has to spread across the country, and then allow us to continue to provide clean, ethical energy on the global scale.
We believe it's important for airports to lead in this space. So as goes your airport, so goes your municipalities and your cities and your communities. So imagine a future, and that future is happening now in other places, but not necessarily in the aviation sector, where your trip to the airport is in a hydrogen vehicle. You're sitting in the airport and you're watching your bags move out to the airplane in a hydrogen tug. And you're getting on an airplane that's running either on partly hydrogen or full hydrogen. And then you look at e-commerce. So a lot of packages to our house are coming by an airplane, by a truck, by a ship. Imagine that all operating on hydrogen.
So our new net zero hydrogen energy complex will help to decarbonize various sectors across Alberta and Western Canada. And Edmonton will be home to the lowest carbon hydrogen network in the world. We chose the Edmonton region for a few reasons. Proximity to our customers, access to carbon dioxide infrastructure and viable geology for sequestration. And lastly, we know that Edmonton has a highly skilled workforce to both construct and operate this facility.
The Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub is a collection of area leaders that are motivated to be able to transform this complex energy system. We have representation from municipalities, from First Nations, from academic institutions, and from industry, working across a wide array of sectors to be able to understand where we need to address issues to be able to expedite and accelerate this transition. Hello, I'm Alana Nachu, Mayor of Sturgeon County, Alberta, and Chair of the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub, which is an alliance of levels of government, Indigenous, academic, and economic development leaders working together to implement a regional hydrogen economy. The Hydrogen Hub is Canada's first ecosystem building initiative to identify opportunities and challenges for hydrogen in the Greater Edmonton area, convening and connecting stakeholders along the hydrogen value chain, and developing concrete industry-led hydrogen projects. The region is well suited to be Canada's first hydrogen hub because of its access to low-cost natural gas, existing experience in hydrogen production, vast network of pipeline infrastructure, large talent pool of engineers and tradespeople, and engaged economic development, government, Indigenous, and academic leaders. It is also home to suitable and existing sites for carbon capture, storage, and utilization, and the world's largest CO2 pipeline. The region is among the world's lowest cost producers of low carbon hydrogen that can be made in the region for about half the wholesale price of diesel. Canada has a competitive advantage because it is one of the lowest cost places in the world to make low carbon hydrogen, but the race to export hydrogen is on. And the Hydrogen Hub's model will ensure that we're acting quickly to take advantage of this opportunity. Canadian hydrogen has a wholesale market value of $100 billion a year, factoring in both domestic earnings and international export opportunities. The Hub can help make the Edmonton region, Alberta, and Canada global competitors and leaders in the production and export of low-carbon hydrogen. The Edmonton region, Alberta, and Canada are working together to realize their shared goal of accelerating a strong pan-Canadian hydrogen economy through the Hydrogen Hub's model and making Canada a leading user and exporter of low-carbon hydrogen the world wants, delivering up to 30% of Canada's end-use energy in a net zero future. Hubs across the country will produce blue or green low-carbon hydrogen based on their unique regional strengths and natural resources and be connected to create a strong pan-Canadian hydrogen economy. Cost is a key driver in helping the world shift to a net zero future, and hydrogen is internationally recognized as a fuel of choice to decarbonize heavy freight, shipping, off-road vehicles, planes, trains, space heating and cold climates, and can also be used as a low-carbon feedstock for industry. We are at the table to support the sequencing of changes in technologies, infrastructure, business models, societal practices, policy and regulatory frameworks to support a vibrant energy sector for both domestic and export markets, as well as new opportunities for responsible economic and social development and enhanced equity and respect for the rights of Indigenous communities. We are working with industry to seek their input on risks and opportunities to drive demand and supply at scale. This includes market-sounding approach to hear firsthand from industry as to what they see as the potential bottlenecks and risks to scaling up quickly. Our goal is to identify those areas that will need some level of public investment in order to scale up rapidly, for example, conversion to fuel cell technologies, refueling stations, converting heating systems to hydrogen, and developing the export market. The project will help put the region on a path to net zero future while ushering in good, permanent, low-carbon jobs into the region. The hub will create a future for the energy industry. The natural resources, pipelines, talent, and leadership that made the Edmonton region and Alberta an energy powerhouse are the same things that will allow the region to sustain its role as a leader in the clean energy future. As I've said before, hydrogen may be the smallest molecule, but it is Canada's greatest common denominator. And so, together with the Enoch Cree Nation, the Alexander First Nation, the Province of Alberta, the Government of Canada, and the 5 member municipalities of Alberta's Industrial Heartland, we are working to realize our shared goal of accelerating a strong pan-Canadian hydrogen economy through the Hydrogen Hub model. Together, we have committed financial and in-kind support of $600,000 over the next 3 years to support the important work of the Hub. But why here, and why the Edmonton region? Well, 3 basic reasons: geology, geography, and skill set. Our geology lends itself well to carbon capture, our geography positions us with access to low-cost natural gas, and our experience in oil and gas gives us a head start in both infrastructure and expertise. We are already home to Western Canada's first hydrogen blending project, with the clean burning gas being added to the residential natural gas supply to lower overall emissions from home heating. We have the production and distribution infrastructure and the industry expertise to help scale it to a Canada-wide energy system. As a province, we've been competing with countries around the world in the energy sector for generations. And we are here to plan a future where we can see a place for ourselves, leading an evolution in energy and leveraging our value for an economic and social recovery. The faster Alberta and Canada can develop a platform and get into the game, the sooner we can plan a secure, competitive future for our economy that makes our natural resources more sustainable than ever before. I want to be clear, this isn't just an Edmonton project for Edmonton. This is a regional collaboration out of Alberta that will benefit all of Canada. Whether green or blue, hydrogen is our key to national energy security and vital to Canada's economic competitiveness. Development of hydrogen infrastructure will help us to maintain jobs and create new ones. Now is the time for governments to be investing in hydrogen infrastructure to make this industry sustainable and the product affordable. Through local municipal leadership, building alliances with other orders of government and stakeholders, we can affect real change. As the most trusted level of government, we can lead in socializing an evolution in sustainable, lower emissions energy. Now is the time for big thinking and big opportunities. We must step forward together and seize that opportunity. Thank you.
And welcome back. I'm Chris McLeod with Edmonton Global, and we're here at the Canadian Hydrogen Convention inside the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub exhibit. So thanks for joining us. We decided to cut this little intermission a touch short because we bumped into Tom McCaffrey, a senior advisor with PrairieScan. Tom, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. So for those who don't know, PrairieScan is I guess it's a creature of the federal government. It really is about economic development. For us, and I think for everybody in the Edmonton region, just an absolutely key partner. Willing to do just about anything to help drive the economy forward, whether it's at the municipal level, at the company level. Can you just talk a little bit about the scope of what PrairieScan is up to?
Yeah, it's pretty broad, and we're actually able to be quite flexible, which I think is unique often inside of government. So we're a regional economic development agency, or an RDA, what we call it in federal terms. And essentially, our mandate is to do economic development in Alberta region, obviously across the prairies. I specifically focus on the Alberta region. We have 4 focus sectors, although we will focus on all sectors of the economy, but health, digital, clean tech, and ag are our 4 big target sectors that we work on. So inside of the clean tech side of things, hydrogen is a big focus area for us. And we have some very unique programs, both to support the innovation side of the spectrum and the industry side of the spectrum as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we tend to not think in Canada as much about, the role of government in attracting business and helping business flourish. When we work with international companies, and we're talking international companies every day, especially here, it's multiple times a day, that buy-in of government to show that they believe in what a company wants to do, especially in major investments. We worked on the Air Products $1.3 billion deal. Alberta's Industrial Heartland worked on the $10 billion Dow deal. Those relationships where the government says, yeah, we're willing to be at the table, to talk to you, to work with you, to help you figure out how to do this. And again, PrairieScan is really the key to that. Can you just talk just a touch about that?
Yeah, so I mean, our role is pretty unique in that as well. So, there are large organizations inside of government, NRCan, ISED, a lot of these big organizations. They obviously also have a focus on all regions of Canada, but often look to us to help them define some of the challenges, to be more focused as we are in Alberta region or in the Prairies region. And so, we kind of play a really unique role in that industry comes to us, talks to us about what the challenges are that they're facing. We have programs to support that. But then beyond that as well, we can, kind of pathfind and advocate and convene different groups inside the federal government, which is quite large. Pretty intimidating even for a large organization sometimes to connect with government and really understand. And often at the end of the day, investors are looking to government to define things. I mean, we set the conditions for success. And I say we as the royal we in the Canadian government, not PrairieScan. But, those conditions are really important, and investors need to understand that. And so we play a really unique role in being able to help define that, help define what's going on in the actual region, and then connect players together is a big role we play beyond our investment, which I think can get undervalued at times. But that pathfinding role that we play, I think it's really important and something that, maybe I wouldn't say it's underutilized, but I would say that some stakeholders don't necessarily understand how big of a role we can play to help them pathfind through all of the different areas of government, both to attract investment, but also help companies go outside of Canadian borders as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, just an absolute wonderful partner. The work you guys are doing is really making a difference. So thank you. Last question, because I know we need to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Impressions of the Canadian Hydrogen Conference. Again, this is the largest hydrogen conference in North America. I think it's the biggest conference to be held in Canada since the beginning of COVID.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on what's going on?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. I have to say that I'd heard about the numbers, heard about the conference for a while, for the past few months, and kept hoping that it was true. I could say pretty unconditionally that I've been really impressed, by the level of speakers, but, I stepped into the booth for 5 minutes to drop off my bag, and I've been standing there for 2 hours basically talking to person after person. So the energy that's here is actually really incredible. And I'd say that, pre-COVID, some of the conferences were maybe a bit lagging. Maybe there was a bit of, I don't know what the current state was, but it wasn't necessarily this. And this is really exciting. I think people are, they're happy to be back together and meeting each other in person again. And even those that maybe a bit more introverted have their extrovert coming out. Which is great. And, but also just to see the excitement and the excitement to be here in Alberta about those opportunities. I think that's been pretty enlightening for me and pretty energizing as well.
Okay, totally agree. This is an exciting time and place to be here in the Edmonton metropolitan region. Tom, thanks so much for this impromptu, quick little conversation. We're going to take just about a 2 or 3 minute break and be right back with David Lozelle, one of the real masterminds behind what's happening here in the Edmonton metropolitan region in hydrogen. So we'll be right back.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
No problem. Thank you. Yeah, all good.
Okay, thanks. Welcome back. I'm Chris McLeod with Edmonton Global. We're here at the Canadian Hydrogen Convention, sitting inside the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub exhibit, and we're right here on the main stage. The next speaker we've got is Dave Lozelle. Dave is the co-chair of this entire conference, the honorary chair of the Canadian Hydrogen Conference or Convention, and he's the energy systems architect with the Transition Accelerator. And Dave, that's a little bit of an undersell. So you're one of the key guys that has done the thinking, the research, the mapping, and figuring out what does it mean to transition an economy from hydrogen or from all the energy systems we have to something new, which is really what the Transition Accelerator is about.
That's exactly what the Transition Accelerator is about. And certainly I've been picking brains of a lot of different people for a number of years, trying to figure out what a transition to a net zero future looks like that really works for Canada and that works for Alberta. And a lot of that has resulted in insights that I think I'm very excited to see. Some of those are actually coming out in this meeting. We're seeing companies here that are that share the kind of same enthusiasm about the opportunity that hydrogen plays for helping Canada to not only address its environmental issues, but create the jobs, create the economic development that we all want to see and the quality of life for Canadians.
Totally, and we've talked a lot about there's a moral imperative, to help the world transition to net zero. There's also a financial imperative to make as much of this happen and to do it smart, and the Edmonton region can be a real leader in that. Can you just talk about that relationship between doing good for the planet and what we need to do, and kind of how to take advantage of that from changing the economy?
Well, I think, in the past, our climate change strategies in Canada have been focused on driving incremental reductions without, looking for least cost short-term solutions to try to get us to emission reductions. And the reality is they've taken our curve from going up and flattened our curve. But, it's became very clear in the last 5 or 7 years that we don't need to flatten the curve. We need to go to zero, right? And that net zero actually changes everything, because there are literally millions of ways that we can achieve incremental reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. Put on a sweater, eat vegetarian, you could have a very long list. But when you actually say, we're not just about reducing emissions, we've got to get to zero emissions, then it changes everything, because effectively there's very few things that will actually help us achieve net zero. And that requires a restructuring and rethinking about how our energy systems work and what we have to change in them. And it was pretty clear that when 47% or something of our greenhouse gas emissions come from the distributed combustion of gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, and natural gas, they're incompatible with a net zero future. So that's pretty scary for a province like Alberta, which gets most of its income and jobs creation is out of those things. So then you sit back and you say, well, we still need energy. We just need energy without the downside. We want it without the greenhouse gas emissions. We want to create clean energy for the future. And that doesn't mean we have to leave the fossil fuels in the ground. It means that we may want to open up where we get our energy from, look at more renewables and more solar. But if we're going to be using fossil fuels, we've got to separate the energy in the fossil fuels from the carbon. Put the carbon back in the ground where it came from. And a lot of the analysis and what's been proven in the Edmonton region is that we know how to do this. And in fact, the Edmonton, of all places in the world, is probably the best positioned to be able to take a leadership role in this new energy transition. We have lots of hydrogen production in this region already. Probably 25% of all hydrogen produced in Canada is within 50 kilometers.
40 years or so of doing it?
And we've done it for 40 years. But we also know how to capture and produce it. There are some companies like, the Scotford Reformer, et cetera, that know how to actually do the separation of the CO2. And we can put it in pipelines and sequester it in the subsurface. And we've got that infrastructure in place. So
absolutely.
There's never it's hard to find a better place in Canada to really start and take more of a leadership role. And that's what attracted me. Even though I'm from Calgary, I said, Edmonton's where it has to happen, right?
And there's so many things you said there that we could make entire conversations around.
Right.
But I think the one maybe that we'll start with is, the population of the world is increasing. We're going to be at 11 billion people, at some point.
Hopefully not, but
well, that's a lot of people think that's probably
that's
the peak, and it'll
possible,
level and maybe shrink a bit. You've got countries like China that have pulled more people out of poverty in the last 15 years than any civilization in the history of the world. That's continuing. We've got other countries that are also lifting people out of poverty. As that happens, energy demand increases for all those people.
Yeah.
So if we only let energy grow and grow and grow, we're in huge trouble unless, as you said, we separate fossil fuels into what's energy and what's carbon. And I haven't heard it quite put that simply, but it's a complex problem. But
it's a complex problem.
It's that simple.
Yeah, it is that simple. But I think there's things we can do about the efficiency which we use energy as well.
Absolutely.
A lot of our technologies we have today are not terribly efficient at converting the chemical energy into energy services.
Yeah.
I think we're going to I would like to rephrase your comment and say, we don't necessarily need more energy, we're going to need more energy services.
Yes.
We're going to need the services from the energy. Now, if we can find better, as we have an incredible opportunity now that I think only comes to be honest, it only comes to society about once every 100 years, a chance to rethink our energy system and restructure it and rebuild it. I think we're at that cusp right now where we have an opportunity to take a look at our energy system and say, what are the things that really work well, right? And what sucks?
Yeah.
And there's an opportunity to redesign an energy system for 2050 that is more efficient, that we get more energy services out of a given amount of energy. But the production of those energy carriers that we're using has to be produced without the environmental impacts.
Yeah.
And it has to be done in a way that actually gives all parts of society, it's just a just transition, that we don't leave whole segments of our society and say, well, they don't need, we don't care about them, right?
Yeah.
We have to bring them along as well. And I think there's an opportunity where it's not just hydrogen, it's electricity, it's hydrogen, it's looking at new opportunities for biofuels,
Yeah.
and it's looking at how do we use our fossil fuel resources to get more value, energy service value out of a given amount of resources that we pull from the earth.
Yeah, makes great sense. So there's been a lot of talk that maybe 30% of the energy should be coming from hydrogen. That some things that are really hard to decarbonize. And you've talked about many of them just then. Whether it's aviation, heavy haul trucking. There's a lot of heavy industry that relies either on intense power or intense heat.
Exactly.
Are there other things we should be looking at for hydrogen?
Well, I think in Canada especially, where we got really cold climate, and our space heating and space and water heating for residential and commercial buildings, it's about 8 times higher in January or even 10 times higher than it is in August. And when you actually think about how you're going to build an energy system that can provide that 8-fold increase, right, over a year, there is a possibility of using electricity, but how do you store that amount of electricity? Or how do we actually have a capacity to generate electricity in January to meet our needs, for space heating? But what are you going to do with that infrastructure in August? Does it sit around and not being used? In which case the cost goes up. So our analysis has been, especially in provinces like Alberta, where we don't have low carbon electricity in excess right now. We're going to need a lot of new electricity into our energy system. And we already have a huge infrastructure in place for moving gases around in space heating. That we see the future for that sector is for space heating is probably hydrogen in this province and actually in many other provinces of Canada. The other area is the whole area of power generation. I think the lowest cost power generation is wind and solar right now, but you can't rely on it. It's not always, it's intermittent.
Yeah.
And sometimes if we build out our wind and solar capacity, we're going to have excess wind and solar, and there's an opportunity to take that and make it into hydrogen, right? And supplement our hydrogen economy. But then when the wind's not blowing and the sun's not shining and it's 30 below zero, or you need to keep our economy going, we're going to need a source of electricity. Hydrogen could be that source, and there's some we can use some traditional technologies for that, like gas turbines,
Yep.
but we can also use fuel cells to get there as well. And the idea is to get, the free market's going to figure out which one works best.
But it might be a bit of all of them.
It's probably a bit of all of them.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's interesting. A lot of people just think about hydrogen fuel source.
Yeah.
But hydrogen as the battery is really what you're talking about.
Exactly, and there's another area where I think I'm excited about what Edmonton has to offer. There's a few other places in Canada that have large salt reservoirs in the subsurface that can create large caverns to store gases, and hydrogen can be stored in. We haven't built the first one yet, but I'm really hoping that we will see in the Edmonton region, but also in the region around Sarnia and Ontario and other places across Canada, where there's even in Halifax area, they all have these large salt cavern capacity, and they could be the large storage. We use salt caverns now to store natural gas.
Yep.
There is nothing to say, that we can't, make other salt caverns and start storing hydrogen, and that becomes massive amounts of energy can be stored, relatively low cost, and then becoming available in the middle of those January days when we need a lot of space heating, we need electricity generation, and we still want to drive need to drive our trucks and buses and trains. So, and I think that new hydrogen infrastructure, there's an opportunity to create that, but also I would argue, to refurbish or repurpose some of our natural gas infrastructure to be used with hydrogen.
Yeah, I totally agree. We just had a conversation with Amclad. It's got technologies to do just that, to put coatings into existing lines, so they can actually hold hydrogen and move hydrogen at pretty intense levels. So the work you've done, the leadership, the research, the papers you've been part of, really created the impetus to form the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub. I don't think the hub here would have existed, at least not with that backing of knowledge and capability, without your research and leadership. Can you just talk a bit about what's happening here with the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub, and how again it's building from a place of fact and understanding to try to get to application?
Well, exactly. I was very excited, and it's only 13 months ago when then the hub got launched. And I think about how fast things have moved the last 13 months. I think many of us are impatient and say, should have moved faster. We wanted to go faster, but there's a lot that has been done. What we had started even before the hub was created is to bring together a number of industry partners in the Edmonton region, with a lot of help from the Alberta Motor Transport Association, and Trimac and Bison Transport and of course other companies around that to design and build two large Class 8 hydrogen fuel cell electric trucks. That's called the AZTEC project. These are 63.5 ton gross vehicle weight trucks that will carry potentially tandem A trains and B trains between Edmonton and Calgary. So those trucks are, the design is we just recently locked down the design of it. I think everybody would be very happy that I'm not having anything to do with the design. There's actually experts in vehicle design and fuel cell truck design that are building it, and they're designing and building these trucks. They're being built in Montreal. Those trucks will be arriving in Edmonton in spring of 2023, maybe next year when we have the next conference of this series. We'll be seeing those trucks parked on here and be demonstrating them. So we're excited about that project. The Edmonton Hub was instrumental in working with Edmonton Transit, with Strathcona, to get 2 hydrogen fuel cell buses. Mm-hmm. And those buses will be delivered, excuse me, I'm a little sneezed. Those buses will be delivered in July of this year, and they will be on the roads carrying passengers for about a 2-year trial. So from the July of 2022 to June of 2024, and then actually go into regular service within those fleets. And so a lot of the work we've been doing is around those 2 projects is to working with companies to set up a fueling system and fueling infrastructure, to produce the hydrogen, to analyze future, and this is within the hub, what is the size of the market if we built on the trucks and bus programs and others. We talked about a little bit before how CP Rail, for example, CP Rail is a has already announced, and they're converting 3 diesel-electric locomotives to hydrogen fuel cell. And I'm hoping those trains will be operating in Alberta and some of them in the Edmonton region by maybe a year from now. They're in trials now and demonstrations. And then there's also in the Edmonton Regional Hub, there's ATCO is putting hydrogen into Fort Saskatchewan lines. We're very supportive of that. And I'm hoping we're going to hear some excitement from the Edmonton International Airport about some of the things they're doing tomorrow. And I think I don't see this as competition between these groups. This is a way where each group that starts to invest in and build new business models around hydrogen, they actually help each other.
Yeah.
They help to bring the demand up and the cost
I totally
down.
agree. It's what we're really trying to achieve is a virtuous cycle.
Yes.
Where production drives demand drives production,
Right.
and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And that brings in more innovation companies, it brings in original manufacturing, it brings in the finance industry, it brings in R&D, it helps the universities and colleges, thrive with doing research. And it's that piece that we're really trying to build, which is that entire value chain from the very beginning, right until the end products. And again, I think that's really at the core of what the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub is trying to do.
Absolutely, yes. And and you mentioned Air Products, and of course Suncor and ATCO product. I mean, there's a very long list, and Edmonton Global's been keeping good track of all the things going on. And
I'll just point out, each of those companies, the scale of their investments are massive. Yeah. You could have done a mic drop with each one of those, and I'm glad you didn't drop the mic.
Exactly. So they're very large. We're talking multi-billions.
Oh, absolutely. We were just speaking with Mark Plamondon from Alberta's Industrial Heartland, and their goal is to have $30 billion in investment, connected to hydrogen, whether it's sequestration or Dow's polyethylene and others. The scale of what's happening here is gigantic. It can't really be replicated in many other places. But the model of what the hub is doing, where again it's bringing together government, universities and colleges for research, it's bringing together industry. That same model to try to figure out how do you transition. You're really also trying to build, not just here but around the country.
We've started to work with a number of other communities, basically trying to take the learnings, the kind of techno-economic analysis that I think provided some of the helped to increase the comfort of industry to get involved, and government, right? So we spent a lot of time saying, would I want my taxpayer money invested in this? Was kind of the criteria that I used in doing those analyses. And what's the business case, and what's the societal case, environmental case for doing this? Is it the best thing to do? We're trying to take those learnings and apply it to different communities. We don't have the same opportunities in other communities, but they're, in some ways they're just different, right? There's places in some parts of Canada, they have low carbon electricity that is low cost, and they have an excess amount of it. And they can put an electrolyzer and make hydrogen, and then you look nearby, where do you find possible demand for that hydrogen? And then how do you bring them together in a way to create a new value chain that doesn't require ongoing public investment? Let's be honest, we're at the very early stages of building a new energy system for Canada. We need to be able to take the public money, use it really wisely, so that in a few years from now you won't need it. Right?
It's decarbonizing is a global challenge. We're going to need global solutions. We're going to need individuals, companies, governments, everybody to chip in to do it. So certainly our region wants to be at the forefront of that.
Right.
But there's no way we can do this alone if we want to actually have a global impact.
Exactly. No, you need to. It needs to be all hands on deck.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we've got time for one more question. And as I kind of look out at this exhibit floor in front of us, on September the 1st of just last year, we sat down with DMG and said, this is what we want to build in this region around hydrogen. They were great partners and said, okay, if you think we can do it, let's do it. We're maybe 8 months in.
Yeah, exactly.
And we've got now the biggest hydrogen show in North America. I think this is the largest conference to take place in Canada since the beginning of COVID. You're the honorary chair of this event.
Yeah.
How does it feel to be sitting here?
I'm incredibly honored, and I'm honored to have been dragged along as the honorary chair. Of course, I can't claim to have done this. It's obviously not, but I'm very proud as so many of the people here that I only have never known in 2 dimensions on video screens in the last 2 years. I'm starting to see them in 3D, and I say, oh, you're a lot taller than I thought you were, and you're a lot shorter, and you're a lot thicker. So it's exciting to actually get to meet the people that I've been talking to, and to really see a shared vision and a desire to do something that's really good for Canada, that's good for Alberta, and it's good for Edmonton.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll say, David, that on behalf of all of us who are involved with the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub, the legacy you're leaving here with the work around, and not that you're going anywhere,
no.
but the work that you're doing is going to create really a lasting legacy for this community, for the province of Alberta, for Canada, and really, I think, globally, you're going to be looked at as one of the real pioneers in helping us all figure out how to transition to a new net zero future.
Well,
so
couldn't
thank
do it
you.
without Edmonton Global, I can tell you that.
We're happy partners.
Thank you.
So again, David, thanks so much. This is David Lizelle, honorary chair of the Canadian Hydrogen Convention. We're going to take a quick little break and be back with a conversation with Nate, the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology, and we'll be back, just in a couple of minutes, so stay tuned.
Welcome to the Canadian Hydrogen Convention's Hydrogen Plus series. I'm Rachel Gregory, and joining us today is the Honourable Minister Dale Nally, who serves as Alberta's Associate Minister of Natural Gas and Electricity. Welcome, Minister Nally. I'm really looking forward to chatting with you today.
Rachel, I am absolutely excited to be here and always pleased to talk about exciting things like hydrogen.
Excellent. So let's get right into it now. Minister Nally, can you tell us more about Alberta's newly launched hydrogen strategy and why now?
Alberta has always been a leader in energy. We are also drawing a line in the sand and saying that Alberta will not just continue to be a leader, but we're going to be a leader in clean, affordable, reliable energy, and that includes hydrogen. Hydrogen is an important part of that. And so in terms of why now, there are many jurisdictions that are making aspirations for net zero, and we want to support that. And this is part of that plan on how we are going to help other industries like the oil sands and other jurisdictions get to net zero, is with clean, affordable hydrogen.
And how do you think the hydrogen strategy will help drive investment into Alberta?
We are already leaders in hydrogen production, and we're also leaders in carbon capture, utilization, and storage. And so this is an opportunity to combine our CCUS capacity with our experience in hydrogen, and combine that with the fact that we have a skilled workforce and a plentiful supply of natural gas and low corporate taxes, and to combine all of those advantages to Alberta and leverage those to become a leader in clean, affordable hydrogen and exporting it as well.
Where do you see hydrogen in Canada's energy framework? How will it help Alberta lead the energy transition in the next few decades?
We already have all these advantages already, and to be able to leverage all of those advantages to advance a clean, reliable energy future is absolutely what we want to do. Now, I want to make it clear that the potential for hydrogen is so significant. It could be as big as oil and gas. We don't see it replacing oil and gas. We see it being right there alongside oil and gas and being part of a clean, responsible diversification of energy products.
How do you see Alberta's innovation, technology, and thought leadership changing over the next 10 years?
We believe that it is the private sector that drives innovation. And so we see our role as bringing those thought leaders together. And so one of the strategies under the hydrogen roadmap is to have a center of excellence where we bring together industry experts with academics, with community leaders from Indigenous organizations, from utilities, everybody across the spectrum, so that we can learn together and to learn from best practices and continue to make technological advancements in clean hydrogen production.
What are you most looking forward to about speaking at the Canadian Hydrogen Convention in April in Edmonton this year?
Anytime I have a chance to talk about hydrogen, I get excited. But when you combine the fact that I get a chance to stand up and talk about why Alberta is going to continue to be a global leader in hydrogen, I get very excited. We know it's going to be a $2.5 trillion industry. We know there's going to be 360,000 direct and indirect jobs in Canada alone by 2050. And so to be able to talk to everyone about why I feel that Alberta will be that global leader in advancing a hydrogen economy is very exciting. To talk about whether it's our low corporate taxes, reduced red tape, or our current expertise in hydrogen production and our infrastructure in CCUS is always exciting for me.
You're so wonderful to talk to. And because this is our H Plus series, I'm going to ask you a bonus plus question so we can get to know you a bit better. With the holidays coming up, what is the strangest or most unique Christmas present you've ever received?
The most unique, which has also been the best, as my daughter, I have an adult daughter, she got me a membership to the Sock of the Month Club. And what's so cool about it is, it's sort of trendy now to wear, neat socks. But what makes this unique, Rachel, is that every month I get a reminder that my daughter loves me enough to send me a gift of the Sock of the Month Club. So every month I get a reminder of a new pair of socks. And it's, to be reminded in May that I got this awesome Christmas gift, it's pretty cool.
Oh, I love that. That's also great. Now I have to maybe track that as a great Christmas idea. That's so nice.
I encourage anyone, I don't own shares and I'm not on commission, but the Sock of the Month is a lot of fun. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Thank you so much. It was honestly a pleasure chatting with you and, hearing your take on Canadian and Alberta energy sector and hydrogen and seeing where we're headed. So thank you again for taking the time, Minister Nally.
Thank you, Rachel. It's a pleasure.
And welcome back. I'm Chris McLeod with Edmonton Global. We're here at the Canadian Hydrogen Convention inside the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub exhibit. Again, there's so much happening here right now. And now I'm joined by Dr. Paolo Muzzone, who is a professor at NAIT, Northern Alberta's Institute of Technology. Thanks so much for coming.
Good afternoon, Chris, and thank you for having me.
So can you tell us just a little bit about NAIT and what's going on and kind of why you're here at the show?
Certainly. NAIT, the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology, the largest polytechnic in the region and one of the largest in Canada, very involved in all aspects of the regional economy and beyond. Very important for us to be here today watching what's happening in the hydrogen space. It's an emerging massive industry, and we want to be there to learn and understand where we fit into the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about the kind of research that you work on.
Right. My research program is the Clean Technologies team, and we focus on helping energy transition through the adoption of circular economy principles, helping companies reduce waste, repurpose waste, and return the land to the state of usability that was originally taken from.
Okay. And you're an applied research chair in energy as well, right?
Absolutely. I hold the Ovintiv Applied Research Chair in Energy. It's an endowed chair, generously created by the Ovintiv company back in the days in Canada, as we all know. And the focus of the chair is all about really clean energy, sustainability, and the transition.
Yeah. So, a lot of people in other countries around the world, often when they think of, whether it's, universities, colleges, polytechnics, tend to think of them as, especially in the US, often they're quite small. We don't do small here when it comes to education. Can you just talk a bit about how big NAIT is and how many students are there?
Right. NAIT is definitely a large player in the polytechnics college space. We have approximately 40,000 students.
40,000?
40,000. And that's on the instructional side. Industry Solutions, which is the container of all things applied research and corporate training, currently counts approximately 200 employees that are fully dedicated to serving industry through applied research projects and corporate training.
Wow, that's pretty big. So can you maybe just pull a couple examples of the types of industry partnerships you work on?
Sure. I can talk very proudly about all the work that's happening in Plastics Research in Action. This is a major initiative for industry applied for industry solutions at NAIT. It's a strategic partnership with Interpipeline. It was created to promote the repurposing of post-consumer plastics in the region and beyond, and created specifically with NAIT because we have an applied research way of looking at problem solving. The partnership also has grown beyond Interpipeline specifically. It also includes now Dow and other companies that are involved in a broad range of projects, all about plastics recycling and plastics repurposing.
Okay. Well, and again, like Dow, gigantic global company with a massive presence here. Interpipe, again, a really large player. They both have big existing footprints. They're in the process of growing them, and it's really great that they're investing in your research around how to decrease the amount of plastics that are kind of floating around in the world. And
sustainability and economy truly are the same thing. It's two sides of the same coin. It's been said for a long time, and now it's really coming into place. The license to the social licensing and the environmental responsibility are all tied with the long-term vision to be prosperous and sustainable in our region here.
Yeah.
And both companies and more are now really putting the resources where the words are. And we're seeing a lot of these initiatives that will have a great impact going forward.
Yeah.
NAIT specifically is involved in these initiatives from an applied research perspective through a program like mine. But we shouldn't forget that we have many alumni working at these companies. We literally have thousands, tens of thousands of NAIT graduates from apprenticeship program as well as diploma programs and micro-credentials, you name it, that work in these companies and drive their success every day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you look at there's the role that the universities, colleges, and polytechnics play here, it cannot be underestimated. We've got somewhere in the order of 120 to 140,000 students across the 8 polytechnics. And when you think about that many students, our population is only about 1.4 million. So it's almost 10% of our population are active students.
It truly is a natural resource when you think about it. Natural and renewable resource, the talent, the immense talent that we have in the region. That's for sure. And I'd like to say there's complementarity. This is the other beautiful thing, an integration between what the university brings to the table. Blue sky discovery, early stage development, as well as what the Polytechnic like Nate brings to the table, which is the next leg, the applied research, the next step of piloting and commercialization.
Yeah, so let's drill into that a little bit more then. Can you give, I mean, you gave the examples of Dow and Interpipe. Are there other examples of companies that are coming in and, figure whether it's commercialization or improving process? What's happening at NATE to support that?
Here's an example from a company that's working with us on prototyping a technology that they developed. So they proved the concept at the bench scale. They've gone through the initial stage of understanding how things work in small batches. And it's all about recycling plastic into a product that will be in our homes in the future, in the vision of this company. And now we're going from small batches to producing it semi-serially, when you're going to want to make it reproducibly and at a spec that can be commercially consistent. And that's where we come in. We come in with supporting them with the applied research that's needed to help them get there. So that's the type of work that we're very heavily involved in. We leave the blue sky discovery to the universities and others, or inventors, and we provide that next stage of support.
How to get it done, how to make it work, how to keep it working.
And absolutely all those three. And we also like to say involving students who will train on these new technologies and ideally will become the employees of these companies and drive their success going forward. Well, it's a very important component of applied research at NATE.
Totally. I believe NATE is the largest apprenticeship trainer in Canada. So that's connection correct. On a project like that, so if they're doing apprenticeships and then you're lining them up with work afterwards.
The applied research projects we design are really a vehicle for honing their skills, picking up new ones, and then making them ready for the transition into the workforce. And it's so critical for technologies that relate to hydrogen, because they're all emerging technologies, they're all technologies ready for commercialization. So we hope our graduates will continue to drive the local economy for a long time.
It makes me think, I mean, one of the things we're trying to do here, and we just spoke to David Lazelle, who's one of the real architects of the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub, and the research and thinking behind what do we need to do to transition to a net zero future. One of the pieces we're really trying to bring in is companies that are doing innovation, companies that are trying things, doing pilots, want to basically prove out a technology someplace and then apply it on a global scale. And our environment, I mean, in the winters we can get into the minus 40s, in the summers we can get into the plus 40s. Everything imaginable we can throw at it, plus the technology and the people to help build the things. It really seems like NATE's in a perfect position to help enable those companies that are ready to try things out.
Strategically, that's where applied research is really focused on, and I think that's the niche that we're well positioned to serve and help in the economy here in the region. And crucial to that is really the human factor. It's the people that are behind the scenes that drive the innovation on the company side, working with our staff, and with the students in the mix. That's how you, I think, create what's needed for those companies going forward.
So are you sending professors and staff out into the field? Are you bringing companies in? How does that collaboration
It happens both ways. We have projects where most of the work is done on site. In other words, companies come with their widget or with their proof of concept that they would like us to further and optimize. But there's also projects where we actually work in collaboration with the company at their sites. So it really is project specific and scope dependent. There's that flexibility that allows you to really pursue what the project needs. We hire in applied research everyone from research technicians that have just graduated all the way to people that are very senior in their careers and hold PEngs. So we have staff that have seen it all, as well as new grads that haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
And that's another way of creating an ecosystem and a community that helps everybody get better every day.
Yeah, sounds great. So a lot of universities, colleges, when they work with industry, especially on trying to solve problems, some of them want to keep the intellectual property, the IP, when they finish. How does the IP relationship work at NATE?
The IP policy is very simple. It's a couple of sentences, and the summary of those two sentences is that NATE does not lay claim to any intellectual property that's generated through our projects. In other words, the companies that we work with own the outcome of the research projects, whether that's a blueprint or a new design or data, however you want to define the outcome, they own it. And that's meant for us the ability to enter into relationships a lot more nimbly, and also create partnerships that are broader, because we're not a stumbling block into the development of those relationships, because we don't own the IP.
Yeah, again, it's a brilliant model. There's been a number of companies that we've spoken to where that's the big issue. You know, it's the worry that if they work with an academic institution, that they're somehow going to lose their intellectual property, that may become a problem down the road, whether they're a startup or even a big global player. But you know, it's really great that you're kind of sidestepping that to say the value is in the teaching, the value is in the relationship, and you know, you keep the IP and let's work together to make it happen.
The belief is that companies are best suited to do commercialization. We benefit from working with companies, as you mentioned, through opportunities for training for our students and for our staff, and returning that value back to the companies that work with us.
Okay. And your team has significant depth in energy. Are you doing much in hydrogen yet?
No, that's the new. It's at the horizon for us. That's why I'm here today. I'm here to learn about the landscape. I'm sniffing around, so to speak, the trade show part of the conference. I'm shaking hands and try to understand where we can fit from an applied research perspective. We can't be everything to everybody. That would not be a good business model. We have really high level of skills in analytical chemistry, for example, in reaction engineering. I think there's a lot to offer from that perspective to the hydrogen space. The question is the matchmaking. Where is it that it makes sense for us to work, and who does it make sense to work with?
So there's a ton of international companies here. Again, it's the largest hydrogen show in North America. Companies from all over the world, including Italy. Is there a sweet spot that you're looking at for the type of, and we also have companies watching online. Is there a sweet spot for the type of projects or the type of companies you're looking for, kind of in this hydrogen space or another energy?
Yeah, it's a great question, Chris. NATE has a flexible enough business model that we've been able to work and are able to work with small and medium enterprises. If you like, there's almost a bit of a soft spot for local small and medium enterprises because we serve the local economy and like to engage with those. But we've also worked with multinationals. So all the big oil and gas companies that have been the mainstay for the Alberta economy for so long are clients of ours, and also international companies. So there's the ability to serve all. What really comes down to is what is the project about, and do we have the right people, and do we have the right equipment, and is it a fit strategically for where we want to go?
Okay. It's a really smart model. So you're not, pitching yourself into a hole. It's where's there a good alignment? Where can you have a win-win? And then you move forward with that. One of the things I'm quite curious about, and again, net zero is about a lot of things. One of them is, reducing overall energy, maybe reusing things. Can you talk a bit about the work you're doing in the circular economy?
Thank you for asking about that. The work that I'm leading in the circular economy is really around three pillars. There's work that I'm involved in with the forestry sector. It's a sector that's provided tremendous amount of value for decades to the province and Canada. And the processing of biomass generates inevitably materials that we consider today waste or byproducts. We have a lot of work going on right now with the major pulp and paper mills in the province, trying to find ways to reduce, ideally eliminate landfilling of the materials that are currently going into the landfill. So that's what I call a chemistry, really hardcore chemistry type work, where we're helping them understand what they have, and then working with them and other companies develop applications for those materials. It's a circular economy concept of not leaving anything behind, not throwing anything out, and instead finding new life, second life, third life for materials that currently we just throw away. The second really important initiative in my program currently is all about plastic circularity. I mentioned to you the work we're doing with Interpipeline. And that's environmentally probably even more significant given the scale at which we use plastic in society. And the third part of our program, this is a fledgling component in the program, is trying to find use for ag and food byproducts. Consumers, unfortunately, end up not using a lot of what they buy at the grocery store, and companies that harvest the land, unfortunately, end up not knowing what to do with some of the materials that they harvest. we were able to set up a program that will ideally start putting some dent and finding uses for some of these streams that are currently not being really monetized appropriately.
Yeah, it's monetizing is one of the solutions of that. It's one of the benefits of that. But if waste from pulp mills or from lumber is just left sitting, it organically turns into methane and all kinds of other things that have a pretty significant
There's
impact.
definitely a greenhouse gas angle if we want to look at it from that perspective. Eventually, all carbon will degrade to carbon dioxide if you give it long time enough, and this is a way certainly of doing mitigation by acting upon that carbon, keeping it into the economy and not in the landfill. That's really the core.
Yeah, it's really important work, and it's quite exciting to know that work's happening here, because it's not just a solution for the Edmonton region. That's a solution that can be used the world over.
Absolutely, the solutions to plastic circularity, those can be scaled worldwide, certainly across Canada. And the work that we're doing with the ag sector is actually a national endeavor.
Oh, wow.
Already it's got a very heavy footprint that's prairie-based because we're a regional college, but it's got a reach that's well beyond that, and forestry is just as big elsewhere in Canada as it is in Alberta. So the focus is always on the local, because that's where we exist, that's our mission. But the problems that we're trying to solve are problems that have a national or even international significance. That's the way we like to frame these types of projects.
Love it. You're doing great work. Again, we've mentioned a couple times that this is the largest conference taking place in Canada, we think since the beginning of COVID, the largest hydrogen conference in North America. We're trying to grow it to the world's largest. If you're like me, you haven't really been out in the world all that much in the last couple of years. What's it like to be at a conference with this many people and this much excitement?
So I'm an extrovert, and so this feels awesome to finally be able to see people in 3D. I'm just really enjoying this. There's moments where it does feel a little overwhelming. It's like, holy smokes, all these people are really all out there yet? But I had lunch, and it was a wonderful lunch, and I saw people that I hadn't seen in a long time, and it all feels really great, I have to admit.
Yeah, I'm loving it too. It's just the energy and the vibe that's going on. And again, we're really trying to build something special here in this region, and to attract the energy and the attention of the world. And today it sure feels like it's happening.
It definitely does, yes.
Okay. Well, again, thanks so much for coming, Paulo. Really enjoyed the conversation. The work that you're doing at NATE, that your team's doing, that NATE as a whole is doing, is really impactful. It's making a huge difference, and we're just thrilled that you're here.
Thanks so much, Chris. And once again, thank you for the opportunity to have a conversation with you. And good luck with the fantastic work you guys are doing.
Okay, thanks so much. So that's our conversation about NATE and the amazing work that their applied centers are doing. And they're doing a ton in energy, but they're doing a ton in all kinds of sectors. So if you've got a business that's already here, or that you're looking for a place to partner in innovation, especially that applied side of it, come down and talk to Paulo and the team at NATE. We're going to take another quick little break, and we'll be back with a special announcement from Invest Alberta.
I'm Malcolm Bruce, CEO of Edmonton Global.
Looking at Canada first, and in a broad sense, what would you say makes Canada attractive as a destination for foreign investment?
Really, there's 5 key component parts that I'd say really bring value from a Canadian perspective. 1 is we're a stable democracy. 2, we have an incredible richness of resources. 3, we have an unparalleled educated talent pool, an educated workforce that really is the best in North America. 4, we have a quality of life that is second to none. And then lastly, we are the only G7 country out of all the G7 countries that have trade agreements with every other G7 country as well as others. So we have access to a market of 1.5 billion people. So I think these are really strong attributes for the country.
So obviously Edmonton is part of Canada and part of Alberta. So inevitably, I'm guessing it benefits from some of the same advantages, probably all of them. Are there any particular that you would highlight that really, let's say, separate Edmonton from even the rest of Canada?
So there's some comparative strengths. You're absolutely right. I think there are some common national strengths that we have, but in the Edmonton metropolitan region in particular, there's a couple of things. 1, we're the second youngest region in the country. Our average age is 36 years of age. So we have a very young population, which means we have things like strong labor force participation. We have incredible connectedness, and people look at us as a sort of northern community. But when you look at our air bridges, we're the closest to, through the circumpolar routes, to Asia. You think about our connectedness to the busiest and third busiest ports, that's Vancouver and Prince Rupert. Our rail connectivity, CN and CP connect here in our region, as well as the road connectedness and pipelines. I mean, you know, the old adage, all roads lead to Moscow, well, all pipelines lead to the Edmonton metropolitan region. So our connectedness, our people, and really some of the other attributes, which I'll speak a little bit more to when we talk about specific sectors here.
The hydrogen hub is, of course, the big news from a foreign investment point of view. $1.3 billion. A trillion would be nice. $1.3 billion, if I'm correct. But it's also an investment in a new sector, I suppose you could call it this way, that builds on Alberta and therefore Edmonton's key strengths around energy, resources, engineering, and of course also infrastructure. Can you tell us a little bit about the sort of the significance of this investment in particular?
It was in June of 2021 that Air Products, a globally recognized company, has made a significant final investment decision for the Edmonton metropolitan region at the tune of $1.3 billion. Now, they've done so because there are some natural advantages that we have here in this region. Some may know of our Alberta industrial heartland, which is in the northeast quadrant of the region. There's some natural geology that helps in terms of salt caverns where you can store product underground very easily. There are carbon capture systems where we have trunk lines that go into the middle of the province to help enhance oil and gas recovery, or we have another one that heads north that really stores carbon underground. So there's these attributes that are allowing us to build this transitional energy system from traditional to alternates like hydrogen in a way that is very climate friendly, as well as creating, as we like to say, the Air Products announcement is going to create the largest net zero hydrogen network in the world here in the Edmonton metropolitan region. So hydrogen is going to be a part of the future. And for those that don't know, we've had a real series of conversations with Japan, South Korea, China, and California. And when you look out to their goals of net zero by 2050 and 2060, in the case of China, the hydrogen factors a significant play in their energy transition. So Canada has an opportunity to become a global player in this space as we transition from the traditional sector to a more climate-friendly sector. In conjunction with a number of partners, we created the first, what we're calling the regional Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub. And that hub is really meant to create a micro economy, hydrogen economy here. So that's the demand, the infrastructure, and the supply. And really, this announcement is going to help create a large supply of the hydrogen so we can build out the demand. So think about buses transitioning from diesel to a hydrogen-based fuel system. Think about the heavy haul trucks that need to move heavy loads between point A to point B. And this hub then is the first one in Canada. And the vision is that over time, there are other hubs that are created, Vancouver, Calgary, Winnipeg, where then we connect through these ribbons of roads, rail, and the like, and we're using hydrogen to actually move the goods and services. So not only is it going to be an important asset for the Edmonton metropolitan region, it's also going to be critical for Canada and our energy transition across a spectrum of activities. And again, one piece though, right? Like this is one piece of the pie. So the carbon capture is also another piece. The green energy transition as well and clean energy transition are also important attributes for it. There's lots of interest after this announcement. There was lots of interest before, but this announcement by Air Products is really going to accelerate that interest by a number of companies. And we have seen that literally in the last 24 hours since the public announcement occurred about a real global interest in what's going on here. and really starts to put this region on the map in terms of energy transition and clean technology.
I want to wrap up on the hydrogen opportunity and then talk more about these other sectors. But you mentioned health, you mentioned ag, you mentioned manufacturing. Maybe reiterating my question, what do you feel so far is the receptiveness of these other sectors, and perhaps also the oil and gas sector, which is maybe the closest to this announcement so far?
I think they're very pleased with the announcement, and part of it is because energy is energy. So whether it's oil and gas, or whether it's hydrogen, or whether it's wind, or whether it's solar, the technical competencies that are necessary to deliver energy to market, and let's face it, the world needs energy, and these skill sets are resident here. So whether it's in the talent that we have here that's working in those sectors. So I see it as a very complementary activity, not a competitive activity, though there obviously are some competitiveness issues in terms of product marketing. But by and large, I think it's seen as a very complementary and very good outcome for the region. The last thing I would say as well is these skill sets that we have developed in our energy sector, in particular the innovation that's going on here, are transferable to other sectors. So the engineer that you've got working on one product can move across, and some of the science can be translated into the health and life science space, into the biopharma or nutraceutical space as well, right? Because it's about molecules, and it's about how do you transfer those things. So whether it's in a carbon, or whether it's in a plant, or whether it's in something else, the basic science remains very similar.
What is the availability of talent, by the way, in the Edmonton region? I mean, we know that talent has really become a commodity around the world, something that people or countries or markets compete for. And it can be a fierce competition at times. I mean, my sense broadly about Canada is that we have very good talent, great talent coming out of our universities and research centers, etc. But perhaps we need more of it. So how much talent is available to build industries like hydrogen and the others in the Edmonton region?
We're very fortunate here in the Edmonton metropolitan region. We have, first of all, we're in Alberta, and Alberta has the best K-12 school system in terms of producing the talent that comes out of that. And then in addition, we have 7 post-secondaries that have anywhere between 130 and 140,000 students going through at any given year, that graduate between 20 and 30,000 graduates every single year. That's just in our region. And as you know, we have certain, we are known globally for a couple of things that I think really enhance the traditional sectors, but also the emerging sectors, and that's artificial intelligence and machine learning. So the University of Alberta is ranked 3rd globally for artificial intelligence. So that's why we have folks like Google Brain, Google DeepMinds, Apple, Amazon. They all come here because they know that the talent exists here in the research and development, and then taking that really smart intellectual property and starting to commercialize it. And then the last thing I would say is, what's also very interesting is we're able to take this technology and innovation and then apply it in traditional sectors. So you're achieving efficiencies. And let's just talk about logistics. So how can you apply artificial intelligence into the logistics systems to create that efficiency and enhancement? So your inputs are the same, but your outputs are far greater. From a business perspective, that's what you're looking for, right? You want that differentiation. And I think the innovation ecosystem that we have in our region is second to none globally.
Now, as we sort of wrap up a little bit, I'd like to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit more about those other sectors that you mentioned earlier, obviously health, obviously ag, manufacturing. Perhaps you want to think about one or two others, and especially through the lens of foreign investment. So if you have any other highlights to share, that would be great, or just projections for which sectors you think are going to be doing well in the region in the coming years.
I look at 5 transformational sort of irons in the fire. One of them is hydrogen, which we've spoken about. One of them is biopharma, and it's really building off the research and development that's going on in this system, as well as the whole healthcare initiative. And let's face it, COVID has really accelerated that weight of effort. So, the things that we have people coming here from global places to be able to tap into that research and development, and then figure out how you can commercialize it. So it's been a very, very new, exciting field. Food and agriculture, it's really about value add. So in our region, I would say it's got huge potential. And it's got huge potential because we have all the inputs here. We've got all the connectedness here. We just need to create more opportunity in the value add. So if you're a foreign direct investor, you want to come and speak about food and agriculture, this is a place to come and do it because all your inputs are here. And you can also get your product to market in a very easy way. So it's really critical. The other thing I want to talk about food and ag is we have the largest food incubator here in our region. So your startup costs and things like that can be offset because we've got this capacity here that helps you get going, both with the experts, but also with the equipment. So it's really quite a special, unique capability. And then finally, when it comes to advanced manufacturing, we truly have the second largest manufacturing parks in North America here. And most people don't realize it. So stuff that's being used in Fort Mac, for example, in the oil sands area, is built here. And that's not just in Canada, but the expertise, the talent, and the products are exported globally because they're recognized as people that can get stuff done. And it's a real cluster that's here that is really well renowned. So if you want to get something built or made, you can come here and we'll do it for you.
My final question is, what must be done and by who to attract more foreign investors into Edmonton's hydrogen hub, but more broadly as well, I would say?
I think one of the things that Edmonton has still a little work to do on is really getting our message and our value proposition out to the global marketplace. Part of why Edmonton Global was formed was to help create that sense of momentum and presence in the global marketplace. And I think that's a key component. The other thing I think that to truly realize, for example, the hydrogen potential is we need to make sure that we're creating the most efficient and effective mechanisms to move product to market. Because we're talking about a $2.3 trillion opportunity in the market export. Canada has stated that we want to be a top 3 supplier of hydrogen to the globe. To do so, we need to make sure we have the full capacity of our infrastructure to deliver that to the marketplace. So I think those are a couple of things that I would say that we still got to work on. But as I said, we've got a little bit of momentum and we've got some acceleration starting to occur now.
For our next event, we're featuring an MOU signing here at the convention with Invest Alberta, the California Mobility Center, and Enertech. In a win for clean tech investment and emissions reduction, the 3 organizations are kicking off a partnership to progress North America's advanced mobility sector. This partnership will help identify investment opportunities and increase collaboration and research in hydrogen, electric vehicles, and more. Both Enertech and the Cali MC are building a localization strategy in the Canadian market to seek mobility sector investments and local collaboration opportunities. Invest Alberta is bringing Alberta into this Canadian localization strategy and will work with CMC and Enertech to connect them with stakeholders, government, post-secondary institutions, and high-impact investment opportunities for Alberta. Now I'd like to invite the following officials to the stage for the MOU signing, followed by photos. Subid Wagley, Director, Business Operations, California Mobility Center, welcome. Wally Hunter, Managing Director, Enertech, welcome Wally. And Rick Christine, CEO, Invest Alberta. Rick, come on up. Thanks so much. Please. Congratulations. All right, so again, congratulations all. This is a really big milestone for California, for Alberta, for all the partners. Rick, would you be able to stick around? We could just have a little conversation about what this means. Okay, again, thank you so much. Congratulations, thank you. I'll just pass you that mic.
Thank you.
Okay, so Rick, we just watched a very official ceremony, some nice document signings. What exactly does this mean?
This is a chance for us in Alberta to expand our hydrogen plants into the US and work very effectively with a partner who's done a ton of work already in California in moving the hydrogen story forward. I was down in California about 6 weeks ago, looking at the CMC and seeing all the work that is being done just in California alone to move this sector forward. And we have an ability now in Alberta to leverage that through our relationship with CMC and with Enerflex.
Oh, that's really wonderful. And again, these things don't just happen. They take a ton of effort, a ton of time, lots of collaboration. Can you just speak to what's gone on behind the scenes to make this possible?
Absolutely. We started working on this partnership about 6 months ago, and Wally's really been instrumental in driving this forward with his team, in that he pointed out to us that we should go down. So we actually went down and visit, and it's really amazing to see what the Mobility Center has done, what their partnership, especially with the university in Sacramento, looks like, how they're moving research and development forward in hydrogen, and how that's going to make all of us more effective as we move forward. So it was having my eyes opened and seeing the possibilities and opportunities for Alberta to leverage this expertise, and now being able to bring it to Canada, and really cutting off a few years of development simply because of what's going on and what the companies that are part of CMC have already done.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. Over the last couple of years, Edmonton Global, the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub, have done a series of conversations with jurisdictions around the world about their demands for hydrogen. We did one with Korea, one with Japan, one from China, and California was one of the major centers that we really talked to about, what's the future of hydrogen. They certainly see it as a cornerstone of California meeting its net zero targets. So again, just really a huge congratulations. This is a huge achievement. Congratulations to all the partners, the companies that are part of this, and just really thrilled that you're part of the hub and telling this story. So thanks so much, Rick.
Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks, everyone. Thanks again. All right, we will be back shortly. We're going to take another quick little break, and we've got one more set here still to come this afternoon. So thanks so much for joining us here at the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub as part of the Canadian Hydrogen Convention. We'll see you soon.
Hello, I'm Alana Nachu, Mayor of Sturgeon County, Alberta, and Chair of the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub, which is an alliance of levels of government, Indigenous, academic, and economic development leaders working together to implement a regional hydrogen economy. The Hydrogen Hub is Canada's first ecosystem building initiative to identify opportunities and challenges for hydrogen in the Greater Edmonton area, convening and connecting stakeholders along the hydrogen value chain and developing concrete industry-led hydrogen projects. The region is well suited to be Canada's first hydrogen hub because of its access to low-cost natural gas, existing experience in hydrogen production, vast network of pipeline infrastructure, large talent pool of engineers and tradespeople, and engaged economic development, government, Indigenous, and academic leaders. It is also home to suitable and existing sites for carbon capture, storage, and utilization, and the world's largest CO2 pipeline. The region is among the world's lowest cost producers of low carbon hydrogen that can be made in the region for about half the wholesale price of diesel. Canada has a competitive advantage because it is one of the lowest cost places in the world to make low carbon hydrogen, but the race to export hydrogen is on, and the Hydrogen Hub's model will ensure that we're acting quickly to take advantage of this opportunity. Canadian hydrogen has a wholesale market value of $100 billion a year, factoring in both domestic earnings and international export opportunities. The hub can help make the Edmonton region, Alberta, and Canada global competitors and leaders in the production and export of low-carbon hydrogen. The Edmonton region, Alberta and Canada are working together to realize their shared goal of accelerating a strong pan-Canadian hydrogen economy through the Hydrogen Hubs model and making Canada a leading user and exporter of low-carbon hydrogen the world wants, delivering up to 30% of Canada's end-use energy in a net zero future. Hubs across the country will produce blue or green low-carbon hydrogen based on their unique regional strengths and natural resources and be connected to create a strong pan-Canadian hydrogen economy. Cost is a key driver in helping the world shift to a net zero future, and hydrogen is internationally recognized as a fuel of choice to decarbonize heavy freight, shipping, off-road vehicles, planes, trains, space heating and cold climates, and can also be used as a low-carbon feedstock for industry. We are at the table to support the sequencing of changes in technologies, infrastructure, business models, societal practices, policy and regulatory frameworks to support a vibrant energy sector for both domestic and export markets, as well as new opportunities for responsible economic and social development and enhanced equity and respect for the rights of Indigenous communities. We are working with industry to seek their input on risks and opportunities to drive demand and supply at scale. This includes market sounding approach to hear firsthand from industry as to what they see as the potential bottlenecks and risks to scaling up quickly. Our goal is to identify those areas that will need some level of public investment in order to scale up rapidly, for example, conversion to fuel cell technologies, refueling stations, converting heating systems to hydrogen, and developing the export market. The project will help put the region on a path to net zero future while ushering in good, permanent, low-carbon jobs into the region. The hub will create a future for the energy industry. The natural resources, pipelines, talent, and leadership that made the Edmonton region and Alberta an energy powerhouse are the same things that will allow the region to sustain its role as a leader in the clean energy future. As I've said before, hydrogen may be the smallest molecule, but it is Canada's greatest common denominator. And so, together with the Enoch Cree Nation, the Alexander First Nation, the Province of Alberta, the Government of Canada, and the 5 member municipalities of Alberta's industrial heartland, we are working to realize our shared goal of accelerating a strong pan-Canadian hydrogen economy through the Hydrogen Hub model. Together, we have committed financial and in-kind support of $600,000 over the next 3 years to support the important work of the Hub. But why here, and why the Edmonton region? Well, 3 basic reasons: geology, geography, and skill set. Our geology lends itself well to carbon capture, our geography positions us with access to low-cost natural gas, and our experience in oil and gas gives us a head start in both infrastructure and expertise. We are already home to Western Canada's first hydrogen blending project, with the clean burning gas being added to the residential natural gas supply to lower overall emissions from home heating. We have the production and distribution infrastructure and the industry expertise to help scale it to a Canada-wide energy system. As a province, we've been competing with countries around the world in the energy sector for generations. And we are here to plan a future where we can see a place for ourselves, leading an evolution in energy and leveraging our value for an economic and social recovery. The faster Alberta and Canada can develop a platform and get into the game, the sooner we can plan a secure, competitive future for our economy that makes our natural resources more sustainable than ever before. I want to be clear, this isn't just an Edmonton project for Edmonton. This is a regional collaboration out of Alberta that will benefit all of Canada. Whether green or blue, hydrogen is our key to national energy security and vital to Canada's economic competitiveness. Development of hydrogen infrastructure will help us to maintain jobs and create new ones. Now is the time for governments to be investing in hydrogen infrastructure to make this industry sustainable and the product affordable. Through local municipal leadership, building alliances with other orders of government and stakeholders, we can affect real change. As the most trusted level of government, we can lead in socializing an evolution in sustainable lower emissions energy. Now is the time for big thinking and big opportunities. We must step forward together and seize that opportunity. Thank you.
Hey, and we're back. I'm Chris McLeod with Edmonton Global, and I'm joined by Mark Lee Wilson with the Edmonton Regional Hydrogen Hub. And we are actually sitting right here in the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub exhibit as part of the Canadian Hydrogen Convention. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So you've been doing a ton of work, just to get all these things ready, whether it's the base case that really all of this is based on, pulling industry partners together, a lot of partners together. Can you just talk a little bit about what your life's been like the last, say, 3 months as we're getting ready for this show?
Probably a lot like your life, getting ready for this show. But I tell you what, what the best part has been is seeing these last 2 years of work sort of culminating, and the opening ceremony, the kickoff speeches, the alignment from all the leaders of the region, Chief Arkan, Mayor Sohi, Mayor Natu, everybody just aligned in that same direction, going towards an energy transition that incorporates hydrogen. It's just really rewarding. And I've been to dozens and dozens of energy conferences, and the buzz that's at this one is unmatched. It's really phenomenal to see.
Yeah, it's when you've been making the Kool-Aid, sometimes you wonder, if it is as exciting and kind of, as much happening as you think, but it sure feels like it's real. We've got somewhere between 2,000 and 4,000 people, here each day. I think we've got 19 countries with delegations. It's pretty amazing. And, I was just talking to David Lazelle earlier, and we sat down on September 1st with DMG to say, this is what we're trying to build in the Edmonton region. Do you want to be part of it? And their first response was, yeah. And, that was September 1st, and now we're in April, and we've already got this huge show.
Yeah.
It's a pretty huge achievement.
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, hats off to everybody involved. And you know what? This has truly been a team sport, like no other initiative that I have seen before in the past, like the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub, all the partner organizations, all these different municipalities, all these different organizations really coming together. It's hard. You don't see that often.
No, and I think you're right. And it is like there's First Nations that are part of this. There's municipalities that are part of this. There's people like the Transition Accelerator, Alberta's Industrial Heartland, us at Edmonton Global. But there's also, companies and individuals and research institutions. Just so many people are trying to make this thing happen and are maybe putting their own interests in the backseat to make sure the region as a whole is moving forward. That's kind of unique.
It really is. And what's maybe different about this is that hydrogen's new. It's a new opportunity. We're creating a new value chain, and we're doing it consciously. Most other energy value chains that have been developed over the years have been through bar fights of different solutions fighting it out. But there's actually not only an economic upside that's really getting people aligned, but there's also the environmental upside.
Absolutely.
It's no longer a fight between two camps. It's truly a synergistic. Everybody hates the word synergy, but it's really hard to avoid. But I think that's what's really different this time around.
So can you talk just a little bit about the role you had in building the base case? And from that, we went out and had market soundings with Japan, with Korea, with China, with California. We just did an announcement here with California. Building that here, but then also kind of testing that. Can you just talk about kind of your part of that?
Sure. So early on, when the hub launched, or actually before the hub launched, we started engaging with industry, local industry, international industry, because again, part of the thing of building something new, we're building a new value chain. You always have to start with demand.
Yeah.
Right. If you're talking about selling an energy carrier, hydrogen, gasoline, diesel, whatever it is, you always have to say, well, who's the customer? Who's going to buy it, right? So that was sort of step one, and we called this process market sounding, where we engaged with domestic companies interested on the demand side, on the production side. We engaged with international organizations, Japan, Korea, California, sort of trying to wrap our heads around, sort of from the horse's mouth, if I can use that phrase, is this real? Is this real to them? And it turns out the answer is resoundingly yes. And once you have that answer of yes, it's real to all those different parties, then the work begins on starting to bring them all together and start to generate that sort of one voice and that one storyline of there is an appetite for hydrogen, there is demand, there's potential to transition to this as an energy carrier. Now we can get to work on, how are we actually going to do this and execute on it.
Love it. So, you've done a huge amount to get us here. What's next?
Well, that's a great question. Crystal ball is really tough to say. Part of the answer is more of the same. I mean, what we've done to date has been working, engaging with companies. Maybe we need to do it more, better, faster. We need to start activating some of the ideas and the projects, start getting strong industry proponents, project proponents, and strong alignment from other industry players around these projects, and start launching bigger and bigger projects. We've launched a number of projects over the past couple of years, and they've all been very purposeful. But we're just getting our feet wet. We need to accelerate and continue to ramp up our activities.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Again, it's an exciting future that's coming, and you're really focused on making those dreams become reality. So, I have a ton of confidence that we're going to be able to pull this off. So, Mark, just want to say again, thanks so much for sitting for a quick jump to sit down. If that makes sense for this little conversation. Again, just really appreciate the work you're doing on behalf of the entire region and on behalf of the hub. You're doing a ton of leadership, and you're really helping us set the course. So just want to say absolutely a huge thank you to you.
Hey, it takes a village. Thanks to you, and thanks to everybody else.
Okay, you bet. All right, we're going to take another quick break, and we'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. I'm Chris McLeod with Edmonton Global, and we're here today at the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub booth inside the Canadian Hydrogen Convention. This is the largest conference to be held in Canada during COVID, or actually at the end of COVID. So it's pretty thrilling to have so many people here from across the country, around the world, and just the excitement that's going on here is actually pretty tangible. This isn't the only big thing that's going to be happening in the Edmonton region, though, this spring. This is April, but in June, we've got the world coming here for From Earth to Space. It's an international conference that really features nanotech, but it's about a ton more. And joining me is Janice Workington, who's the Executive Director of Nano Canada. So Janice, thanks for coming.
Thanks. Thank you for having me.
So Earth to Space, you know, it's nothing like making a topic small. Tell us what's going on with the conference.
Yeah. So we've done a lot of collaborations and working together with nanotechnology research centers and organizations across the world. And nano is in every sector. It's enabling technology. So everything from protein, it's industry supercluster to, fertilizer to transportation and aerospace applications. So really that's where it started, from Earth to space, and everything in between is the advancements and the impact of emerging technologies, including nano advanced materials.
Yeah, that's outstanding. So, people might say, you're at a hydrogen conference, why are you talking about nano? I will remind people that hydrogen is the smallest element. So, it is at the nano scale.
That's right. That's exactly, yeah.
So, I know that this year is going to be the first conference that you're doing.
Yeah.
You've really, as an organization, have done a ton of work, though, in quantum, in chemistry, in nanotech, here all over the world.
Yeah.
But this is really one of the first ones that's international on nano, brings together industry and academics.
Correct.
So maybe just can you kind of talk about what was the brainchild of this and what's it going to look like?
Yeah. So Nano Canada started here in Edmonton out of the National Research Council, the Nanotechnology Research Centre here on the University of Alberta campus. It started off as a program really trying to commercialize and advance some of these new technologies from the incredible investment provincially and federally into nano. And so what we did was brought the community together. We started doing export, trade, and development missions. So we've done 27 international missions over the last 7 years and made some great friends and partners across the world. Have MOUs signed with organizations similar to ours, trying to have those same objectives and mandates in Korea and Japan and Brazil, and we're really just trying to partner together and showcase the incredible innovation here in Canada. And so everybody says, when are you going to invite us to Canada? And so this is what we're doing. We're inviting all of our partners and colleagues from across the world to join us here and showcase the innovation and the ecosystem here in the city and in the province, and bringing Canadian partners together to show that how incredible we are.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And that spirit of collaboration and sharing I know is absolutely central to the work you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Right, that's how the magic happens, right? You go on a trade delegation to Japan or Korea, and you find out, not only do you find new partners and distribution networks abroad, but you also get to meet colleagues from across the country and end up working together and partnering together too. So we're really setting it up for big industry-led conversations in the morning, lots of time for networking, meeting people, having coffee, having food together, and then more targeted parallel sessions in the afternoon, talking about how to implement some of these big ideas into real world solutions, and how we need to partner together from everything from nano and quantum and artificial intelligence and advanced materials. It really takes a community of stakeholders to come together to talk about creative solutions for these.
It sounds pretty exciting. Okay, so from Earth to space.
Yeah.
And I joked earlier that's pretty broad.
Yeah.
But you're being broad on purpose. So can you maybe talk about, are there streams, are there focus areas? How are you connecting the dots from that small scale to the very large?
Yeah. So the morning starts off, day one, we are having health and nanomedicine, everything from precision medicine. We see the advancements in the vaccines and nanomaterials playing a role in the vaccine development during COVID. Day two, we're talking about sustainability, right? What is it going to take if advanced materials and collaborations for food, energy, water solutions, clean tech, clean energy, how are we solving these by working together? Day three, the vision is the future and beyond. So from everything from transportation to aerospace to what fueling innovation and what is needed. So having government there talking about what's the importance of investing and how do we really look forward thinking to solve some of these challenges today.
Well, I hadn't thought about, mRNA or DNA-based vaccines being nano. Small molecules, I guess, are nanoscale.
Yeah.
Are there companies or is it research? How are you bringing that part of the story in?
So everything from Entos Pharmaceuticals here in Edmonton will be
John
there.
Lewis's team.
To we work with BioAlberta and the biotech organization. So we were recently funded by the Supercluster Engine to build Nanomedicine Canada, which is really bringing the biotech and advanced materials and nano communities together to showcase how we need to work together on some of these targeted drug deliveries, precision medicine, all of these new and innovative things happening so quickly, and how do we stay on top of it, and how do we be prepared for the next pandemic or the next exciting thing that will happen. How do we be prepared? Yeah.
Wow. So, precision medicine could be its own conference all by itself.
Yeah.
So that's one. What are some of the other ones and some of the companies that are part of those?
For the afternoons, we have everybody from academic presentations to companies presenting on their research. We have a Singapore company presenting on their, they are from Calgary, they moved to Singapore. What is the innovation ecosystem like in both countries? Really pursuing it from basic cutting edge academic research to what we need to fuel innovation and scale up and grow and stay in Canada.
Wow. So, again, it's still a couple of months away.
Yeah.
Do you have some delegations coming from other parts of the world?
Yeah, so we have a delegation coming from South Korea. We have speakers coming from, 8 different countries, participants coming from all over the world, from Brazil, from Japan, from Germany, France. So we're excited. We're excited to see people again in real life. It's going to be special. Yeah,
absolutely. And again, this year's primarily it's about nano, but the plan is to build this out over 10 years and to really make it about nano, quantum, and AI, and really how those things fit together.
Yeah.
Again, I think what you're trying to cover this year is a pretty gigantic topic. How are you going to cover all of that? That seems like a pretty massive undertaking for such a nano-precise organization.
Right, and it is really the power of community, and a lot of the nano and the quantum people work together and have worked together for many years. So how do we continue to grow and build those networks? Nano that's heavily invested in early 2000s, and we're seeing a lot of industry and impact from that. Quantum is the big news, big federal investment into quantum. So how do we support that community well and learn some of the lessons learned from nano as an enabling emerging technology, and how do we commercialize faster? How do we bring it to market faster? And how do we leverage this investment to actually create jobs and make an impact?
Yeah, it sounds fantastic. There's a local company, it's smaller, Quantum Silicon, that can basically make silicon chips at a nanoscale, moving individual atoms around to create circuit boards. And the technology and what they use there, that type of chip can be fantastic for artificial intelligence. It also, because it's so small, reduces energy consumption. So it is, and in theory too, it also is going to work for quantum computers and quantum memory. It is this convergence where it's a company that says we can do this that suddenly enables all kinds of other things. Are there other examples like that?
Yeah, one of the speakers we're talking to is going to be talking about artificial intelligence and 3D printing of organs in space. Wow. So if that's not like from Earth to space sort of theme right there, it's incredible. And you have to have a community of people, right, together in different sectors and different disciplines, and an interdisciplinary approach to solving these issues.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so with all that you're doing, the amazing topics, you're obviously sold out, so people can't come in, right?
Are
there still tickets?
There's still some tickets, yes. June 8th to 10th in Edmonton. You can go to nanocanadaconference.ca, nanocanada.com. You can go there as well and find out all the information and all the details.
Okay, and I can guarantee you those tickets are not going to last long.
That's right.
So if you haven't bought a ticket yet, June 8th to 10th.
June 8th to 10th.
This
right
year,
here.
2020, here. Same basic space. We're going to be
up in Hall D.
Up in Hall D. And I know you're also doing some partnership work with Invest Alberta. So Inventures is happening the week prior.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking of coming out to Inventures, why not do Adventures? Maybe add a little time in the mountains. Come hang out here at Edmonton. Pack a couple weeks together. But it's going to be a pretty exciting time. And again, year one of a 10-year build. So if you
That's
can't make
right.
it this year, start planning for next
That's
year.
right. Yeah, we partnered with Air Canada, so you can fly in and out of Calgary, and we have a networking reception at the Fairmont. We have dinner at the JW Marriott. We really want it to be big ideas, and then the magic happens when people talk to each other.
Yeah.
People have conversations, and that's where the big ideas and collaborations come in. So
Fantastic. Okay, so you can just Google Nano Canada and find it. You can Google From Earth to Space. You can find it.
Correct,
You
yeah.
can come visit Edmonton Global. We've got it on our website. It's all over
yes,
the place.
yes.
Okay,
it's
so
everywhere.
again, Janice, thanks so much. We are so excited about that
We're
conference
excited
that's coming.
too. Yeah, thank you.
And it's got to sell out, and let's see it here for the next 10 years and just grow and grow
Exactly,
and grow.
exactly. Great. Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks so much, Janice.
Good to see you.
Okay. All right, so that's our last conversation of the day here from the Canadian Hydrogen Convention. Again, I'm Chris McLeod with Edmonton Global, and it's been a real pleasure to host you from the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub exhibit, and we'll see you back here first thing tomorrow at 10 a.m. Have a great night.
Walking up into a mountain where we fall asleep, holding on to a little bit of love, waking in sunshine, cold air, feeling fine, high, lost my mind, holding on to a little bit of love. Your smile's getting bigger, I'm still trying to figure how if I should keep holding on to a little bit of love. Fall, leaves falling down, back to another rough year on the ground. I'm airplane bound, holding on to a little bit of love. Ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba-ba-da-boom.